if a situation ever arises where more than 99% of the world's population is dead, and only 1% of people are still alive, and now, for many years, just one man has been living alone in the entire city. Even though the situation is terrifying to imagine, it is exactly this kind of story shown in today's movie, I Am Legend. In this movie, it is shown that, due to the spread of a virus, 90% of the world's population has died. And from the remaining 10%, 9% have turned into monsters because of the virus. And now, only 1% of the world's total population is alive and healthy. And a unique aspect of this movie is that it has two different climaxes, meaning the story of this movie has been ended in two separate ways. And in today's video, we will explore both endings of this story. So, at the beginning of the movie, we see a doctor being interviewed on television. And that doctor says, "I have developed a cure for cancer. For the past several months, I have tested this medicine on 10,000 patients. And now, every single one of them is healthy." Then, the story jumps to 3 years later, showing the city of New York in the United States. We see that the entire city is now deserted and non-functional. We see cars lined up, motionless, throughout the streets of the city. And plants have started growing in the middle of the roads, slowly turning them into a jungle. But nowhere in the entire city is there a single person in sight. Then, we see a red sports car speeding through the wilderness of this empty, silent city. And inside this car, we see the main character of the movie, Neville. Neville, along with his dog Sam, had come out in this car to hunt. And after going a little further, they see a group of wild deer in front of them. Neville then tries to shoot one of the deer, using the gun he had with him. But before he could shoot them, the deer escaped deeper into the jungle within the city. So Neville and Sam are forced to get out of the car and follow them into the forest. Just when Neville is about to shoot one of the deer, a lion, along with its entire family, jumps onto the deer from behind. In fact, this entire city had now turned into a jungle. That's why wild animals had slowly begun to live inside the city. Now, Neville desperately wanted to take that deer by any means because it was his only food source. But before he could do anything, an alarm on his wristwatch starts beeping. Hearing it, he realizes that the sun is about to set in a short while. So he quickly returns home with Sam before the sun goes down. Before entering the house, he carefully checks the surroundings and sprinkles alcohol around the perimeter so that no creature could follow their scent and enter the house. Now, we see that after entering the house, he locks all the doors and windows from the inside. Then he quietly lies down in one of the rooms with Sam beside him. Here, we see that Neville keeps a gun next to him while sleeping. And at this moment, both he and Sam are filled with fear, because as soon as night falls, they begin to hear the sounds of many vicious creatures around their house. Now, the story flashes back to events from 3 years ago. It shows that the cancer patients who were cured using the medicine had now developed a new kind of virus in their bodies. That virus spread rapidly across the world through the air, and most of the people who came in contact with the virus started dying. And a few people began to turn into a kind of monster or zombie due to the virus. These beings were called Dark Seekers in the movie. Due to the virus, they lost their emotions, feelings, and memories, becoming monstrous beings. And they always hid in the darkness, and they only came out at night to hunt. Now, we see Neville heading toward the airport with his wife and daughter. And from here, the story returns to the present time. Next, we see that the following morning, Neville goes down into the basement of his house after waking up, and he had turned that entire basement into a medical laboratory. There, we see that he has kept several virus-infected rats inside the lab. And every day, he conducted experiments on those rats, trying to develop a cure for the virus. Now, he notices that out of all the rats, one of them is slowly starting to recover. Seeing that, he believes that perhaps he has finally created a cure for the virus. And now, with this medicine, maybe all the Dark Seekers can be cured and turned back into humans again. After leaving the lab, Neville goes to a nearby store with Sam. And we see that the store contains several human-like mannequins. And Neville comes to the store every day and talks to the mannequins. Because he had been living alone in the entire city for so many years, he had somewhat lost his mental stability. So he treated those mannequins as real people and tried to talk to them every day. At the same time, every afternoon, Neville would broadcast a message via radio, trying to reach any surviving humans. We hear him say on the radio, "My name is Dr. Neville, and I may be the only living person in this entire city. But if there's anyone out there like me, who's still alive and can hear this message, come to the pier and meet me. I'll be here every day. I can give you food and shelter, and I can protect you from the virus. While Neville and Sam were standing there, Sam suddenly spotted a deer in the distance and started chasing it. Seeing this, Neville also goes after the deer, hoping to hunt it down. We then see Sam follow the deer into a dark building. But Neville stops outside the building, not entering it immediately. He was extremely afraid to go inside. Dark Seekers prefer to stay in such dark places. But to save Sam, he is forced to enter the building. After searching for a while inside, he finally spots Sam. There, Sam is seen hiding under a table, trembling in fear. As Neville approaches Sam, he sees a Dark Seeker running toward them. He quickly shoots the Dark Seeker and grabs Sam, running away from the spot. Hearing the gunshot, the rest of the Dark Seekers inside the building start chasing them. But Neville and Sam manage to escape and reach the sunlight outside. A few Dark Seekers also come out of the building after them. But as they come in contact with the sunlight, their skin starts to burn. Their skin was so sensitive that even the slightest sunlight was unbearable for them. That's why they always stayed in dark places during the day, and only came out at night to hunt. Now that Neville knows there are many Dark Seekers inside that building, he decides to capture one and bring it back to his lab. Soon, he sets up a trap using ropes. Immediately, one of the Dark Seekers gets caught in the trap. Then, we see another Dark Seeker step slightly into the sunlight and scream at Neville, trying to save the one that was caught. It seemed like that Dark Seeker was desperately trying to rescue the one who had been captured. Neville then takes the captured Dark Seeker back to his lab. He uses the same medicine on it that had worked earlier on one of the rats in the morning. Initially, the medicine seems to work, but after a while, it stops having any effect. Seeing this, Neville becomes deeply disappointed. The next morning, Neville again goes out hunting with Sam. He also continues broadcasting his message over the radio. While driving down the road, he sees one of the mannequins from the store, the ones he used to talk to every day. One of those mannequins is now strangely standing in the middle of the road. Seeing this, Neville becomes extremely alarmed, because it's impossible for an animal or even a Dark Seeker to have placed the mannequin there like that. Only a human could. Dark Seekers had no intelligence or reasoning of their own, so there's no way they could have done this. Neville begins shouting at the mannequin, "Who brought you here? Did you come here alone? If you're alive, then answer me." The truth is, after being alone for so long, Neville had begun to lose his sanity. He starts shooting wildly and rushes toward the mannequin. As he gets close, we see that there's a trap made of ropes set up around the mannequin. And it's the exact same type of trap Neville had used the previous day to catch the Dark Seeker. Before he can understand what's happening, Neville's leg gets caught in the trap and he is hoisted up. While this is happening, his head hits the ground hard. As a result, he immediately loses consciousness. After a while, the sound of his wristwatch alarm wakes him up. Neville notices that the sun is about to set very soon. Sam is standing below, looking up at him and barking continuously. Neville pulls out a knife from his pocket and begins cutting the rope tied around his leg. After struggling for a while, he finally manages to cut the rope. As soon as the rope is cut, he falls straight down from above. In the fall, the knife accidentally stabs into his own leg. This causes him to writhe in intense pain. Now, he's unable to stand properly. So, he starts dragging himself with his hands, trying to reach his car. Because the sun is just about to set and he must return home before it gets dark. Otherwise, the Dark Seekers will kill both him and Sam. After a while, they notice a Dark Seeker standing in the distance, in the shadows. And it's the same Dark Seeker who had screamed at Neville in the sunlight the day before. That Dark Seeker now has several infected dogs with him. He releases the dogs and sets them on Neville. Neville quickly grabs his gun from the car and shoots the infected dogs. But in the chaos, one of the dogs bites Sam, which leaves Sam in a very bad condition. Neville immediately rushes Sam back to his lab. He gives Sam several doses of medicine to stop the virus. But soon, Sam slowly begins showing signs of being infected. Seeing this, Neville realizes that there's no way to bring Sam back to normal. Before Sam completely turns, Neville sadly strangles him to death. Doing this was extremely painful for Neville, but at that moment, there was no other choice. In this entire world, Sam was his only friend, the only one who loved him unconditionally. And now, the situation has forced Neville to kill his only companion with his own hands. We see that Neville is deeply heartbroken by the entire incident. The next morning, after burying Sam, he decides that he won't return home that night. He will take revenge on the Dark Seekers for Sam's death. And that's exactly what he does. As night falls, he takes his car and goes out to kill Dark Seekers. After killing many of them, at one point, his car completely overturns. A little while later, that same Dark Seeker arrives, the one who had released the infected dogs on Neville the day before and because of whom Sam had died. Now, that Dark Seeker is just about to kill Neville. But suddenly, a car from behind approaches with bright headlights shining toward Neville. The intense light forces the Dark Seekers to retreat and flee the area. Then someone gets out of the car and rescues Neville from the attackers. Neville had been seriously injured during the whole event, so he slowly starts losing consciousness. Someone inside the car asks Neville for his home address. Before passing out, he manages to tell them his address. The next morning, when he wakes up, he finds himself back in his own home. At first, he gets a little startled to see himself in that state. Then, when he walks into the living room, he sees a woman and a child. The woman introduces herself as Anna and says the boy is her son, Ethan. Anna says, "I heard your message on the radio, and I waited there all day yesterday for you. Then at night, I saw you fighting the Dark Seekers, and that's when I brought you back to your home." Anna continues, "The rest of my group was killed by the Dark Seekers. Now, only the two of us are alive. We are heading to Vermont from here. I've heard there are still healthy people surviving there." Then Neville says there's no such place. No one else is alive in this city except for us. Anna says it's up in the mountains. The climate there is very cold, and the virus cannot survive in cold temperatures. But Neville refuses to believe anything she says. After a while, Anna says to him it's already very late today, but if we leave early tomorrow morning, we can reach that place before evening. And you can come with us if you want. But Neville says, "I'm not going to leave the city. Everything started in the city, and I want to finish everything here." Suddenly, Neville remembers something Anna said earlier, that the virus cannot survive in cold temperatures. So he surrounds the infected Dark Seeker in the lab with ice. And now, due to the ice, the body temperature of the Dark Seeker has dropped significantly. That night, Anna tells Neville once again, "Come with us to the mountains." But Neville keeps insisting there's no such place. No one else is alive besides us. Then Anna says, "No, I know such a place exists." Neville asks, "How do you know that?" Anna replies, "God told me this. And I'm sure there's a reason I was sent here." But Neville just couldn't believe her words. While the two of them were talking, suddenly they hear noises from outside. Neville looks out the window and sees all the Dark Seekers are approaching their house. We see that Neville had set bombs all around his house. Now, using a remote, he detonates the bombs. But even that doesn't help much, because the number of Dark Seekers was just too large. And within moments, they break into the house. To escape them, Neville, Anna, and Ethan rush down to the basement lab. There, a thick glass door separates the lab. They close it and sit inside. Now, Neville notices the Dark Seeker he was experimenting on in the lab. It is slowly recovering. Moments later, the rest of the Dark Seekers enter the lab. And now, the leader of the Dark Seekers steps forward. And this was the same one who had been hunting Neville all this time. The Dark Seeker starts pounding violently on the glass to break it. From inside, Neville keeps shouting to them, "I can save you all. I found a cure for this disease. Please just calm down." But no one was listening to him. Now, due to repeated impact, a crack on the glass forms the shape of a butterfly. Neville now notices that Anna has a butterfly tattoo on her neck. Seeing all this, he begins to believe maybe these are signs from God. Immediately, he takes a sample of blood from the Dark Seeker, collects as much as he can. Then, he gives the vial to Anna and says, "This blood contains the cure to the virus." He then places Anna and Ethan in a small secure chamber. Anna pleads, "Come with us inside." But Neville replies, "If I want to stop them, I have to do something." Then, he shuts Anna and Ethan inside the chamber, takes out a photo of his wife and daughter from a drawer, then takes a grenade from the next drawer and walks toward the Dark Seekers with it. Moments later, the explosion kills Neville and all the Dark Seekers. The next morning, Anna arrives at the mountains with Ethan, and we see that there truly is a place on that mountain where many healthy people still live. Once inside, Anna hands over the vial of blood, which contains the cure for the virus. And now, thanks to Neville, humanity has a chance to return to normal. But this movie has another climax where the ending was a bit different. And in the second ending of the story, we see that all the Dark Seekers had entered the lab to kill Neville and Anna. And there, the leader of the Dark Seekers kept banging on the glass violently, and a butterfly-shaped crack formed on the glass. Now, Neville notices that the Dark Seeker trapped inside also has a butterfly tattoo on its shoulder. Seeing this, he realizes that the Dark Seeker outside had come to save the one trapped inside. At the same time, Neville understands that these two Dark Seekers may actually love each other. So immediately he drops his gun on the floor and surrenders to them. Then he opens the lab door and returns the trapped Dark Seeker to them. The rest of the Dark Seekers there were about to attack Neville and Anna, but their leader gestures to them to stop. Then Neville injects the one he experimented on with a serum. As a result, it immediately regains consciousness. And after regaining consciousness, the leader hugs the revived Dark Seeker, then picks it up in his arms and leaves the place with the others. Next, we see that the following morning, Neville, Anna, and Ethan are heading toward the mountains, where the rest of the healthy humans are still alive. And now they have the cure for the disease, with the help of which they can restore humanity to its former healthy state. And that is where the movie ends. If you liked the video, you can subscribe to the channel.